What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Fantasy Football Waiver Wire Hour here on Optimus Fantasy. I am Nate Palva, joined by my host, Evan Sather. It's Monday night, guys. We have football coming up, but first we want to help you set those waiver wire claims so you can have a great week 2 of fantasy football. Evan, your Bears are playing tonight. How are you feeling? Are you ready for the game? Are you ready to see Caleb Williams blow up tonight against Minnesota?
You know, I was just telling Lou this before the show. My Bears coming out for pregame warmups. This team looks different compared to last year. Just with the way they're carrying themselves, with the way they're laser focused, with the way that this looks like an organized team for the first time since I can't even remember the last time they were this organized, probably since the Lovie Smith era. Like, everybody knows what they're doing. There's a certain level of quality that we have here. This is going to be one hell of a game, and I expect this to be a shootout, if not anything less, being that I think defenses are not going to matter so much if you're starting either the Vikings or Bears defenses. I don't know if they're going to get a lot of points tonight. I think this has shootout written all over it.
I agree. And I think what's interesting, what makes this game more intriguing for me, is seeing what Detroit's offense was yesterday without Ben Johnson.
Ooh.
So, right. I know it was not good. I'm just getting basically throttled by Green Bay. Didn't expect that. So I'm interested to see what Ben Johnson does with this offense, because it was talented last season. They've done some things in the offseason to get better. Their line is improved. I don't know, man. I think this is going to be a fun game. I'm picking Chicago to win tonight. I think McCarthy stumbles a little bit as his first start in the NFL. It should be a good game. But with that, let's get on to these waiver wire players. Evan, the first position we're going to go to, of course, is quarterback. We're going to start off. We've got to talk about Daniel Jones, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we absolutely have to. Massive career game yesterday. Game. A 75% completion percentage. He had 3 total touchdowns, 1 passing, 2 rushing. He scored on every drive.
He's the first quarterback to do that, I think, since the 60s.
I think ever. I believe he's the first quarterback in NFL history to ever do that. They didn't even end a half with possession, which is just an incredible feat. And this is Daniel Jones we're talking about.
Yes. Yeah, and by the way, as a quarterback, you expect more passing touchdowns, but in Danny Dimes' case, he had 1 passing touchdown. He took 2 to the house himself. And that was 3 scores right there. 1 thanks to his arm and 2 thanks to his legs. Daniel Jones was just locked in as the Dolphins were just letting the Colts kick the ever-living crap out of them. I mean, I don't want to dismiss anything the Colts did to get that 33-8 win, but Daniel Jones, I wouldn't say is a must-add on your waiver wire unless you badly need a QB2. They're facing the Denver Broncos next week, and that Broncos defense is no joke. They are going to give the Colts a really hard time, unlike the Miami Dolphins' soft defense, but that's another story. Sean Payton is not going to be like Mike McDonald and let the quality get out of control. Daniel Jones is 10% owned on Sleeper right now in redraft leagues. I'm not rushing to add Jones. I'd much rather have other options on the waiver wire if you can get him.
Yeah, I'm not rushing either. However, if he plays out in week 2, his price is going to go way up. If you're in need of a quarterback, this would be a really good time to grab Daniel Jones, because you're going to get him for probably, what would you spend? 5 to 10% of your fab on him right now. But if he balls out against Denver and plays well, you're talking about 30 to 40% if you need a quarterback. So,
in Daniel Jones's case, I'm not spending more than about 3%. I really do not want to spend much money on Daniel Jones, because despite that beatdown they gave the Miami Dolphins, they still did it on the ground, which is, if Daniel Jones takes it himself, that's good. But they've also got Jonathan Taylor, and Daniel Jones did really well with Michael Pittman. Pittman got 1 of those touchdowns. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he got 2 of them. Maybe I'm wrong. No, he only got the 1. But yeah, 22 of 29. That was only 29 passing attempts, which tells me that the Colts are going to be running the ball a lot. So I'm not so sure I want to be treating Daniel Jones like Josh Allen.
Well,
or
no,
even
no,
Lamar
no.
Jackson.
Oh, no, absolutely not. And I definitely don't think we should treat him like that. This is how I'm looking at him. He's Anthony Richardson, but can throw. So however you were going to rank Anthony Richardson in this offense, I think it's fair to rank Daniel Jones there right now, which makes him worth an add. And with that rushing upside, you're going to get some of those rushing. Obviously, we got 2 last week. I do think he's worth a look, maybe a little bit more than you do. Let's move on to Michael Penix over in Atlanta. Had a decent outing, almost won. Had Younghoe Koo not blown that kick at the end there, we might have at least gotten overtime in that game against Tampa Bay. How are you feeling about Michael Penix heading into week 2? Do you think he's someone that's worth spending a little bit more of your fab on, or are you kind of reserved with him right now?
If you need a second quarterback, definitely. I think Penix is most definitely worth adding a little more, spending a little more with your fab to go get him. I am not going harder than about 10% of your fab. 10% if you really, really, really need a second quarterback, if you're in a 2 quarterback or super flex league. But in the meantime, Michael Penix is also not a guy that I'm rushing to get either, but he offers a lot more stability at the position and arm talent, let's be honest, than Daniel Jones. So, being that he offers what he offers, he's got Drake London, who's got the shoulder injury, but I think he'll play through it. He's making Kyle Pitts look good again at tight end. Kyle Pitts, I believe, caught 6 of 8 passes yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. 7 of 8, excuse me. So even though he didn't fall in the end zone, that's some pretty good value. Michael Penix is looking good with this offense. So yeah, I wouldn't go above 10% fab to go get him, but he's a much more worthwhile add than Danny Dimes.
No, and I don't disagree, because I think what he's doing is sustainable long-term, looking at their schedule, looking at the team around him, the coaching staff. Michael Penix can keep this up. I mean, 298 yards and a touchdown. He added 21 yards and a touchdown on the ground, which is unlike Michael Penix to get footsie with it and kind of get outside the pocket. But, I mean, maybe that's a sign he's more comfortable in this Atlanta offense. So I'm good with Michael Penix. Now, the next guy that I put on here, Evan, I put on because of something that Brian Daboll said yesterday after their game at a press conference. He said that they wouldn't necessarily, or he wouldn't, I guess, commit to Russell Wilson as their starter moving forward. Russell Wilson was awful. He had a 45% completion percentage, just absolutely inefficient. And then after the game, Russell Wilson says, well, I left it all on the field. Jackson Dart looked really good in the preseason. And I know we can't necessarily get too excited about what we saw in the preseason against second and third team defenses and playing with the second and third string offense. But what Daboll said today, yesterday, where he would not commit to Russell Wilson as the starter, does that lead you to believe that we might see Dart the next couple of weeks? And is he worth an almost free ad heading into week 2 if you have the roster room?
No, I would not go out rushing to go get Jackson Dart right now, because the Giants, before the season began, made a pledge that they're not going to ruin Jackson Dart. They went out and they got Jameis Winston. They went out and they got Russell Wilson. They wanted to get some quarterback depth ahead of him so that they can develop Jackson Dart and not get him killed by this offensive line that is down quite a bit of talent. They're without Anthony Thomas at left tackle, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's still playing left. This is not an ad you need to do right now. Jackson Dart is, I want to hold integrity on the Giants, thinking that they're going to be holding him to make sure that they're not going to ruin him by having him replace Russell Wilson, but it's the Giants we're talking about here. They're probably going to renege on that and go, okay, you're in, Jackson Dart, save us, and then get him crushed out there by this terrible offensive line that, listen, the Commanders are not known to be a top rushing defense, but they did add some stellar talent this offseason that made Russell Wilson look like he needs to retire.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you can just say Russell Wilson needs to retire in general.
Agreed.
And I do think that they'll go to Jackson Dart. I think he's worth an ad in deeper leagues, 2 quarterback leagues. If you're looking to get a backup, maybe you skimped on a backup in your drafts, this would be a good time to add him for free if you have the roster space. But I agree with you. He's not someone I'm running out to get right now, someone that I really just want to roster and think I'm going to start as soon as he starts. We do have a question in the chat here, Evan, and I want to get to this real quick. Jason William, hey guys, are you dropping Diggs or Judy for Hollywood Brown, Keenan Allen, or Keon Coleman? My wide receivers are Drake London, Ted McMillan, and Jerry Judy. Jason, we will get to that here in just a minute when we get to wide receivers, so if you can just hang on, we will be there soon. Now, the last quarterback I want to get to, Evan, and then we'll talk about one more here after this, but Aaron Rodgers, 4 passing touchdowns on Sunday against the Jets. Do you think he's back, or is this just luck against a bad defense?
I wouldn't say it's luck against a bad defense because the Jets definitely have some talent on that defense, but being that they changed a lot of their coaching staff, it seems to me they're still getting used to the Aaron and Glenn system, meaning that they're going to need a few games to get good. Plus, this is Steeler magic that we're talking about here with Coach why do I always forget the Steelers head coach is Mike Tomlin? This is Mike Tomlin magic we're talking about here. And Aaron Rodgers' arm is the best thing going for him, where you guys have to remember he took 4 sacks against that tough Jets defense. Will McDonald got 2 of those sacks on Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers' wheels are gone. He can't rush to save his life. He's lucky that he still has his arm that he can throw touchdowns to guys like Jalen Warren, Calvin Austin. I forgot who caught the other 2 passes, but I don't think this is going to be a 4 passing touchdown week every week for Aaron Rodgers. It was a good showing against a division rival, but the Seahawks, the Patriots should give him a reasonably easy time because I don't think either of them have good passing defenses, and neither do the Vikings. But when the Vikings come up in week 4, I would expect them to give Rodgers a little more of a hard time because they have a lethal front defensive line, which I'm worried about my Bears having to go up against pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm with you. Though I think there's something to, like you're saying, this Pittsburgh magic where Tomlin's always 8-8. On top of, I think Aaron Rodgers might have something left in the tank a little bit. Now, that said, I'm not willing to go out and grab him. I think it's risky at best, stupid at worst to go spend fab on him right now. But he's someone I am keeping an eye on, because if he can keep this up over the next couple of weeks, you kind of can't deny that maybe he is worth a roster spot if you've got it in fantasy.
If you need a second quarterback, I wouldn't go further than 5% of your fab. Don't spend too much on Rodgers. But if you need one right now for some reason, yeah, don't go above 5% of your fab.
Yeah, and there are better options. Again, I mean, Michael Penix. Yeah. Honestly, I probably think Daniel Jones might be a little bit more sustainable than what we're seeing from Aaron Rodgers. I might be willing to spend on him instead.
I agree.
The last one I want to talk about, Evan, Justin Fields. Now, he's pretty heavily rostered. He's above 50% in Sleeper, above 50% in ESPN. But I want to talk about what he did. And if he is not rostered in your league, do you think you should be spending a lot of fab on him right now? Because this was a fantastic performance from Fields. I think he's QB2 on the week behind Josh Allen right now.
Not sure if you could hear that in the background, but those were the fighter jets going above Soldier Field because I have my window open and I live near Soldier Field too. So that I don't know if you guys heard that, but that's what that was. Anyway, so Justin Fields looks really comfortable in this offense where they went out and got Tanner Engstrand to be their offensive coordinator, who has excellent experience working with great head coaches like Jim Harbaugh. They worked together at University of San Diego years ago before Harbaugh took that Michigan job. So with Justin Fields, he only had to throw 22 times in that game against the Steelers, threw 1 touchdown pass, got 2 on the ground by himself, 12 carries for 48 yards, and he only took 1 sack. And Justin Fields looked extremely comfortable out there. I never thought I'd say in a million years that the Jets were going to help get proper development out of him that the Bears and the Steelers didn't bother to do. So now that Fields has good weapons, he was making somebodies out of the nobodies on that team between Josh Reynolds, Tyler Johnson, and even, I didn't see any Alan Lazard out there, but Mason Taylor, and he even made Jeremy Ruckert relevant out there at tight end, who is his Ohio State teammate. So Justin Fields is definitely somebody with rushing upside that I would put on the top of the list if he happens to be available in your league. If you need a second quarterback, I would say, yeah, you got to go 25% of your fab to go get him, at least.
And it's worth it. It's 100% worth it for what he's going to be on this team. Well, then the thing, he has weapons, man. He threw a touchdown pass to Tyler Conklin.
No, not Tyler Conklin, Tyler Johnson.
Tyler Johnson, but he threw the ball to Tyler Conklin. What more can you ask for, right? You're getting multiple tight ends involved. They're spreading the ball out. He looks comfortable in his Jets offense. So I think he's a guy you go spend your money on.
Tyler Conklin is now an LA Charger. I think you were thinking of Mason Taylor.
Yes, I was. Mason Taylor. Yes, I'm thinking of Mason Taylor. All right, with that, let's move on to running backs, Evan. This was a crazy week for running backs, and we're going to start with the craziest one. Dylan Sampson showing out in Cleveland. Not the running back we expected to show out. Most of us had Ford rostered. However, 12 carries for 29 yards, but 8 targets, 8 catches, 64 yards for Samson. Do you think this is something that continues with Joe Flacco at quarterback, or do you think this was just kind of a one-time flash in the pan for Samson, especially with Judkins possibly coming back soon?
So when the Browns spent that 3rd-round pick to go get Dylan Sampson, this is exactly what they had in mind for him. He has Alvin Kamara-like hands in which he can catch a lot of great passes out of the backfield and get somewhere after the catch, which a lot of running backs cannot do well. So the fact that they got they struck gold with Dylan Sampson in the passing game, this is definitely a guy that's got some PPR value when it counts. Rushing value, not so much. The fact that he couldn't do much against this weak Cincinnati Bengals defense is pretty sad. But then again, it's not like the Browns have a respectable offensive line or a respectable run game, and the Browns are thinking that they're going to be adding Quinshon Judkins as early as next week. So, assuming this happens, Sampson will definitely be his change of pace guy to catch more passes out of that backfield. I don't think it's necessarily going to be 8 catches on 8 targets, but he will have some low-end flex value if you can get him on your team and if you're desperate at flex.
Well, they've got some tough games coming up. They've got Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, Pittsburgh. But then they've got Miami, New England, the Jets, Baltimore again, but then Vegas, San Francisco, whose defense didn't look good in Tennessee. Looking at the schedule, if the Browns can be somewhat in these games, which I think they can be, just based on what we saw yesterday, Sampson's going to get the ball a lot. And I think that he could be a really good 1B to what Quinshon Judkins is. Not a lot of teams are going to roll out 2 rookie running backs, but of course it's going to be the Browns, right? Now let's move on to DJ Giddens over in Indianapolis. He had kind of a randomly good week. People are getting excited about him. I know that you put him on this list here. 12 carries for 41 yards involved. Do you see him being more involved moving forward, Evan? Is that why you've got him on here tonight?
So DJ Giddens came in during garbage time because they were blowing out the Miami Dolphins. They didn't want to keep running Jonathan Taylor into the ground. They were already up big. They already gave Taylor 18 carries and then 3 targets in the passing game. It's a long season. They're not going to get Taylor hurt, so why not roll out DJ Giddens to see what he can do against a defeated Miami Dolphins team? So, like you just said, 12 carries. That he got 25% of the snaps. That's how badly the game was as a blowout. So, no, I would not go out and rush to go get DJ Giddens. He is a handcuff, as far as I'm concerned, to Jonathan Taylor. And this is why in regular redraft leagues with shallow benches of like 5 or 6, I do not recommend picking up handcuffs like DJ Giddens because this is the only time to get any relevance. And you're lucky if they get the 4 fantasy points. So no, I would not recommend adding DJ Giddens right now.
Yeah, unless you really, really want to handcuff Jonathan Taylor, I don't know why you would. Let's move on to Ray Davis over in Buffalo. He really didn't do much last night. He had 1 carry for 2 yards, 1 target for 1 yard. However, he's trending on sleeper right now. People are starting to add him. How do you feel about Ray Davis right now? Is it just maybe, I guess it must be a speculative ad, assuming he's going to be more involved in the future?
Ray Davis is a clear handcuff to James Cook as well. They just paid James Cook the bag. So Ray Davis is there as a big-bodied insurance case just in case anything happens to James Cook. And they also still have Ty Johnson out of that backfield, who he saw more snaps than Ray Davis, which is kind of sad, but then again, they also like Ty Johnson better in the passing game, so that's why they still roll him out there. Ray Davis is also somebody that I am not getting ready to add in regular redraft leagues. If you have Ray Davis in Dynasty, you're happy, but no, do not add Ray Davis in your redraft leagues.
Yep, I 100% agree. Again, he's another guy I wanted to talk about. He was trending on sleeper. I wanted to get that out of the way. Sometimes, guys, this waiver advice is going to be more about who you should not be adding that maybe other people are. And with that, let's move on to our next running back, Tyler Algier over in Atlanta. It was pretty much a straight up split between him and Bijan Robinson as far as the running game went yesterday. Of course, Bijan went off with 100 yards receiving. Do you think this is going to continue, Evan? And do you think Tyler Algier at this point right now in the season is worth an ad? He's rostered in 38.7% of ESPN leagues and 35% of sleeper leagues.
So it's going to be the same answer as I gave for DJ Giddens and Ray Davis. No. The days of Tyler Algier having any fantasy relevance are gone because Arthur Smith is no longer the head coach of the Falcons. He is the clear handcuff to Bijan Robinson, as I'm pumping my fist because J.J. McCarthy took a sack to my Bears defense. But anyway, Tyler Algier is a third guy in a row we're talking about that you do not need to add in your redraft leagues. Even if you already have Bijan Robinson on your team, you don't need to roster handcuffs. There are always better options on the waiver wire in your regular redraft leagues with shallow benches. Unless you're in some crazy deep league, no, do not add DJ Giddens, do not add Ray Davis, do not add Tyler Algier.
Yep, 1000%. Now, Bashal Tutin with the news that Tank Bigsby has been traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, first of all, you can probably... Tank Bigsby's droppable, right? At this point, I believe.
Yeah, now that, so in case you all didn't hear, Adam Schefter of ESPN broke the news that Tank Bigsby has been traded to the Philadelphia Eagles from the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Eagles gave up a 2026 5th and 6th round picks. So, being that Bigsby is now being added to the mix in the Eagles backfield, he's now behind Saquon Barkley, along with Will Shipley, and this looks like a move that they wanted to do because Ben Van Sumeren is now out, being that he got injured in the first play of the kickoff. They just added him to injured reserve because he tore his patella tendon. That's what this move screams to me. It appears that they're seeing which running back they want to add on special teams. So I would not be surprised to see Tank Bigsby get some special team stuff. So yeah, if you have Tank Bigsby, you're not going to get much value out of special teams. Just go ahead and drop him if he's on your bench.
Yep. Now, what about Bashal Tutin? He's been a hot topic in the fantasy community. Right now, he's rostered in 42% of ESPN leagues, 39% of sleeper leagues. Where are you at on Bashal Tutin, Evan?
So, right now, Bashal Tutin, when we saw the running backs being utilized, Travis Etienne was the clear, he was nearly a bell cow, at 61% of the snaps. Tutin got 6% of the snaps. Lakeith Allen, an undrafted rookie, got 14% of the snaps. So, Lakeith Allen offers a little bit more right now as a 6 foot, 201 pound guy, and he also caught one pass for 4 yards. And Bashal Tutin is not exactly a tiny guy either at 5'9" and 209. But Bashal Tutin is a 4th round rookie that definitely needs some development. And being that he only got 11 yards on his 3 carries, I'm not ready to go ahead and add Bashal Tutin everywhere we go just because he's backing up Travis Etienne. He may have some flex value if he's given more work, but based off of what we saw against the Carolina Panthers, even when they were blowing out the Panthers, they did not give him much work at all. So right now, I don't think is a good time to be adding Tutin. I know that some of you are excited to be adding Tutin because of how explosive he was in the Senior Bowl and the Combine, but I would say slow your roll on Bashal Tutin and don't go rushing to add him yet.
Well, like I told you before the show, because of my love of him at the Senior Bowl, I was really excited to be able to talk about him. But you're correct. Like, we need to see more. 6% snap share in week 1 doesn't give you a lot of faith that he's going to see a lot of work moving forward. However, over the next couple of weeks, we might start to see him get more involved. I think it's kind of surprising that he's rostered in 42% of ESPN leagues. I think that shows that the fantasy community maybe got a little higher on him and really didn't like Tank Bigsby, I suppose, as well.
Yeah.
That's part of it, too.
I get it. Tank Bigsby's not exactly an exciting option, and when you get to the dead zone of your draft, that's when a lot of people like to start adding rookies because they think they're getting a leg up on the competition, thinking that they're going to outsmart their league mates by adding a guy that's unknown. So, as far as I'm concerned, Bashal Tutin is not one of those guys right now. Do not rush to add him.
Yep, no, 100% agree. Now, the last one we're going to talk about, we'll get through this one quickly here. Kenneth Gainwell over in Pittsburgh. He saw a 54% snap share on Sunday, 7 carries for 19 yards. He was targeted 4 times, making that into 3 catches for 4 yards. Wow, that's a terrible stat line.
Yep.
Are we still excited about Kenny Gainwell and this Arthur Smith offense, or do we now know exactly what he is and what I think we talked about he was last week?
No.
Yep.
No.
As the old line goes, he is who we thought he was.
I don't understand why Arthur Smith likes Kenneth Gainwell in the first place, being that his Eagles days, he freaking stunk. The guy's a horrible running back in the NFL. And I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve a roster spot, because he does have some opportunistic platoon strategy that you can apply for him in certain situations where he'll take like 2 carries for 20 some yards on the Eagles back in those Eagles days. But now that he's a Pittsburgh Steeler, Arthur Smith is using him in a split backfield with Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren was clearly a better running back than Kenneth Gainwell. So just because he got 54% of the snaps and 5 fantasy points out of it doesn't mean you go rushing to Adam. So, no, if somebody else wants to overspend their fab on Gainwell, just let him. He sucks. I don't like him.
There isn't a world in which I would ever roster Kenny Gainwell again. Not ever. And just real quick before we move on to wide receivers, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, 10 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown on a 33% snap share on Sunday. Is that going to continue in Washington, Evan?
Are you ready for some cold water I'm about to pour on this hype train? Because no, it's not going to keep happening.
This is exactly what I expected. Exactly. Why do you think I asked the question, Evan?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Before we move on to wide receivers, I just wanted to tell everyone about our Discord channel. It's fantastic, and it's run by the one and only Lou Brunson, guys. We are over there giving you all of the fantasy advice you can handle, redraft insights, dynasty discussions, DFS advice, NFL best bets, and tons more. We're just cultivating a fantastic fantasy community. We would love for you guys to come check it out. So please head on down to the show description, find the link, head on over and sign up. We can't wait to see you there. Now we're going to move on to wide receivers. Evan, we're going to start with the name I didn't expect to ever say again. I liked him coming out of LSU. Then he just kind of was booty. But now Kayshon Boutte is not booty. He was the number 1 receiver for Drake May this weekend. 6 catches for 103 yards, 82% snap share, 16.3 PPR points. He had 8 targets. Is he the wide receiver 1 in New England? Did he emerge, or is this a flash in the pan like some of these guys we talked about already?
I like Kayshon Boutte a lot. He was one of my favorite dynasty adds to my bench last year, but unfortunately I have to pour some cold water on this too and say no. I think this is I wouldn't say it's a complete flash in the pan, because he's still going to get targets in the future, but it's not going to be 8 on a consistent basis. He's probably lucky going to see 4 on a regular basis, being that they just paid Stephon Diggs, and they've also got Demario Pop Douglas out there, who got 7 targets, but only caught 2 of them. One of them was a touchdown. And it's funny enough, like, he caught a touchdown pass, but his receiving line on the day was -2 yards. How do you even do that?
I don't. Evan and I talked about that on the recap show, The Express, last night. He wasn't going to talk about it, and I urged him, I was like, dude, we have to talk about this. -2 yards and a touchdown. How do you do that? But but Pop Douglas did it. I like Kayshon Boutte. I don't think he's necessarily the wide receiver 1. Like, this is a New England offense. They're going to spread the ball out. Drake May's a rookie. They've got Stephon Diggs, like you said, Pop Douglas. Hunter Henry's going to get his. On Sunday, he had, He had 8 targets, 4 catches for 66 yards. So these other guys are going to continue to be a factor in this offense. However, if you're adding Boutte as like a wide receiver 2 or a flex, that I'm okay with, but not more than like 2 or 3% of your fab. I can't stomach anything more than that.
Yeah, I think 2 to 3% tops is what you should be putting on Kayshon Boutte. I hate to say it's a flash in the pan for a guy like him. I like him, but no, don't count on him to be getting 6 of 8 for 100 yards every week.
No, I think he's like a 3 of 6 for 50 or 60 yards. Maybe he gets a touchdown. He gets that 14 to 15 PPR points. I don't hate that. Now, Hollywood Brown, in the absence of Rashee Rice, he went off. 16 targets, 10 catches, 99 yards, good for nearly 20 fantasy points. Evan, is this going to be a thing until Rashee Rice is back? Can we trust what we saw?
First of all, touchdown, Caleb Williams taking it to the house himself. Let's go! Rashee Rice. So, he is out for the first 6 games of the season. He's got other teammates stepping up in his absence. Xavier Worthy has a shoulder injury that's going to be a day-to-day basis. We have no idea when Xavier Worthy's coming back yet. So, in the meantime, we've got Hollywood Brown, we've got Tyquan Thornton, and we've got Juju Smith-Schuster. Hollywood Brown got 16 targets on 93% of the snaps for 10 catches and 99 yards, no touchdowns, but that's still good for 20 fantasy points. Now, that being said, this unexciting, vanilla, bland Kansas City offense is going to be unpredictable all season long. Travis Kelce does not look good anymore. He only got four targets in this game, but he also got a red zone touchdown as well. So, as far as I'm concerned, the only piece I want to trust in this passing offense is Travis Kelce, as bad as he looked out there. Hollywood Brown, I think you can make a case to add for anywhere between 5 to 8% of your fab if you really, really need another wide receiver. Don't bother adding Juju Smith-Schuster or Tyquan Thornton. Tyquan Thornton is more of a special teams guy anyway, and Juju is a guy that likes to get possession receptions that pisses us all off when we're expecting other guys to catch the ball in that offense. So I would say Hollywood Brown, don't go crazy with your fab. 5 to 8% tops. If you really need a wide receiver.
Yeah, I have a hard time trusting him. I've never really trusted him. He burned us when he was in Baltimore. He'd have these big games, right? And then he'd just kind of disappear. I feel like that's going to happen again with him. Maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to say. But let's move on to Quentin Johnston over with the Chargers of Los Angeles. I almost said San Diego.
It's right. It's supposed to be right. It's San Diego.
They should be the San Diego Chargers still. It's so stupid they're in LA. We'll have a show about all this stuff one day, Evan. We're going to do it. But Quentin Johnston, the king of drops last season, 82% snap share, 7 targets, 5 catches, 79 yards, and the icing on the cake being his 2 touchdowns. I believe he's sitting at wide receiver 3 on the week right now. Yep, wide receiver 3 on the week right now. Again, this is a guy that we haven't trusted in the past. He had issues with drops, but he is a first-round pick. Do you trust what we saw Quentin Johnston do with Justin Herbert in this game against the Chiefs on Friday?
I don't trust it on the level that he produced against the Chiefs' weak secondary, but I definitely expect him to be solidified as a number 2 wide receiver in this offense. Now, I realize the Chargers just spent a 2nd-round pick on Trey Harris, but they also brought in Keenan Allen, and it seems like they want to let Trey Harris develop in this offense. He only got 8% of the snaps. He caught 1 pass for 11 yards. Good for him. He's 23 out of Ole Miss. I love me some Ole Miss wide receivers, but he's going to sit for a while behind some really good veterans like Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston, as far as I'm concerned, is now a veteran, being in his 3rd season. But I think he's solidified as the number 2 wide receiver in this offense. I would say spend up to 15% of your fab if you need a wide receiver on Quentin Johnston. I would much rather have him over Hollywood Brown at this point.
I would too. I think it's going to be more consistent. Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh seem to be like forming some sort of identity for this offense. It includes more passing than we maybe thought they were going to do. But when you have Justin Herbert, you got to throw the ball more. You just have to do it. Now the next wide receiver, also a Charger, Keenan Allen, comes back to the team after a year away. 10 targets, 7 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown, and a 62% snap share, 19.8 PPR points. Same question. Is this sustainable from Keenan Allen in this offense?
I don't think this in particular is sustainable for Keenan Allen. He came out strong in a very heavy passing attack that the Chargers were able to do against the Chiefs, being that the Chiefs have a stronger front than they do a back. So they were going to make the run game hard either way, and that opened up the passing game quite nicely for the Chargers. So Keenan Allen, I believe, is also going to be seeing wide receiver 3 upside the way that I do with Juju Smith-Schuster, and I don't think he's necessarily going to be catching 7 of 10 for 68 and a touchdown every week, but if you need a wide receiver 3 flex option, Keenan Allen is perfectly fine to roster on your bench. I would say don't go above 10% of your fab.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't go above 7 to 8%, I think. I want to hold on to that other 2 for something else.
Okay, I'll take that too.
Yeah. Now, Trey Tucker over in Vegas, is he worth the roster slot? I mean, limited work, but a decent snap share. I don't know that I'm interested. The reason I brought him onto this list and wanted to talk about him is simply because I saw he was trending on Sleeper and other platforms. Yeah, he had a 90% snap share, 3 targets, 2 catches for 54 yards and a touchdown. Without that touchdown, he has 7 fantasy points. Do you have any interest in rostering him right now?
I do not. I don't think Trey Tucker is a strong ad right now. 90% of the snaps, and yet only got 3 targets and caught 2 of them for 54. One of them happened to be a touchdown. Good for him. But Trey Tucker is not a must add at this time. This is clearly the Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers show. I'm out on the rest of the wide receivers in Vegas right now.
Is there a chance you could be in on Deontay Thornton mid-season if he starts to see a little bit more work?
Yeah, so if Deontay Thornton starts to see more than 4 targets right now, or than right now, yes, I could absolutely see making a case to add Deontay Thornton, or is it Deontay or Dante?
Well, Dante
Thornton, sorry. So Dante Thornton, I think, is a watch. Click on that star in Sleeper to watch him if you haven't already. I wouldn't say he's a must add right now, but keep an eye on him. He might be worth an ad a little later in the season, possibly before the week 8 bye that the Raiders have. So I would say don't go adding anybody else from the Raiders at this time, but do keep an eye on Thornton.
Yeah, don't go chasing waterfalls, people. Stick to the rivers and lakes that you're used to. And I just want to give a special shout out to Keon Coleman last night. What a game. Oh, that Bills. I was on a show with Kevin. I caught the last 4 plays of that final drive. And then Jen told me all about it. Rewatched it on Good Morning Football this morning. What a thrilling win. And Keon Coleman, that diving catch on 4th down in the back of the end zone after the tip. What a catch. Just
I absolutely love that the wide receivers that we accuse of having bricks for hands between Quentin Johnston and Keon Coleman finally grew hands and they got good.
I know. Now I just wish Joe Mixon would grow his damn foot back. Guys, if Keon Coleman is available in your leagues, 82% roster on ESPN, 76 on Sleeper, it's very unlikely that he's available. But if he is, he's a guy where I would be spending 30 to 35% of my fab right now because you're not going to get a wide receiver. He showed who he is. He is Buffalo's wide receiver 1, period. He is the number 1 target in that offense right now in the passing game. Dalton Kincaid could be a close second. I think Shakir's kind of relegated to 3rd. And Josh Palmer showed out. You love to see it. I don't know.
Josh Palmer,
Bills.
Yeah, Josh Palmer, to my surprise, got 9 targets last night, but I feel like Josh Palmer didn't show up until late in the 4th quarter when they needed that 2-minute drill to hurry up and get that game-winning field goal for Matt Prater. But Josh Palmer is not exactly somebody I'm rushing to add either. This is not going to be a 9-target guy every single week, but I think you're absolutely correct about the Bills, and I'd love to see Lou in the comments confirm this, but Keon Coleman was a 2nd-round draft pick last year. He got hurt, but he was definitely drafted to be the guy for this team. I think Khalil Shakir just happened to become the de facto wide receiver 1 because they just didn't have anybody else stepping up, but I think you're right in that Dalton Kincaid is now developing, and Shakir is kind of gonna be not a complete afterthought, but I don't think Shakir is gonna be getting 9 targets every single week either. I'm not saying drop Shakir from your teams, but if you got to go get Keon Coleman, if he's still out there on your waiver wire, a minimum of 35%.
Yep, minimum. All right, now that we're in wide receivers and we've rolled through our list, I want to get to this question here from Jason William. We promised we'd get back to it here. I hope you're still here listening. Hey, guys, are you dropping Diggs or Judy for Hollywood Brown, Keenan Allen, or Keon Coleman? My wide receivers are Drake London, Tet McMillan, and Judy. I would drop Judy for Hollywood. I'd drop Judy for Keon Coleman. I wouldn't drop him for Hollywood or for Keenan. But I would drop Judy for Keon Coleman. Because I still think he could emerge as the wide receiver 1 in that offense.
See, I hate to recommend dropping Judy because he's clearly the best wide receiver on that team, which is really not saying much because that Browns wide receiver team, it's ass. I mean, I hope you don't mind me dropping that word on this stream, but I can't think of a more fitting word for the Cleveland Browns right now, being that, I don't even know what they're doing. I mean, they kept up with the Bengals, congratulations, but when they go up against a angry Ravens team next week, that's probably not going to end well for the Browns. But anyway, I'm sorry, Jason. Back to your question. I do not drop Diggs, but go ahead and drop Judy for Keon Coleman if you can get him. If it really has to be Hollywood Brown, I'd put him 2nd and then Keenan Allen 3rd. I would, if you have to add all 3 to your waiver priority, that's how I would order it. Coleman, Hollywood, and then Keenan.
Yep, that's exactly how I do it as well. All right, we've got couple more questions. Jorge and Mick, if you guys can hold on, we're about to roll through tight ends and we will get to your questions. So we're going to roll into tight ends. The first one on this list, I can't believe it. I can't believe it in part because I was so high on Mike Gesicki. I can't believe it in part because his name's Noah Fant. 4 catches on 5 targets. He had a 50% snap share. He had a touchdown. Do you think this is really going to be a thing moving forward, Evan? Do you think he's the guy over Gesicki who only had 3 targets and a 30% snap share?
So the guy is not exactly how I would be describing Noah Fant when it comes to the top tight end for the team, because to be honest, the Cincinnati Bengals do not have a top tight end. I mean, yes, I wrote this in the waiver wire. This is basically what I wrote in the upcoming waiver wire article we're going to be releasing soon. They paid Mike Gesicki handsomely, but then Noah Fant happened to be the preferential target for Joe Burrow in the struggling offense. So the Bengals are going to go back to the drawing board in the locker room and figure out what to do with their offense. Noah Fant is somebody that I think has better hands than Gesicki. I think they like using Gesicki as more of like a utility guy, a gadget guy all over the field. That's better for real football than fantasy football. So with that being said, I would not depend on Noah Fant to be a dependable tight end option to catch a lot of passes. Being that he is a notable red zone target means something, but if you are desperate for a second tight end on your team, I would not be spending more than 10% of your fab on Noah Fant. And I think that's awfully generous.
That is generous. I was going to go back to my 7 to 8% on Fant.
Fair.
I don't trust anything in this Bengals offense. I don't trust Chase Brown. I trust Jamar Chase and I trust T. Higgins that eventually they're going to get it together and be fine. Outside of that, I don't trust much. Now, Juwan Johnson, look, this Saints team was supposed to be so bad. They didn't look nearly as bad as we thought they were. I'm not saying to go roster Spencer Rattler, everybody. Yes, there are worse things in life, but I'm still not going to do it. Those worst things are awful, just to be clear here. But Juwan Johnson, I mean, 11 targets, 8 catches. He had a 99% snap share. He didn't even need a touchdown to be tight end 1. I think this is sustainable. What do you think?
Definitely. Spencer Rattler needs a safety blanket of sorts in this struggling, ridiculous offense that is expected to be really, really bad this year, which sounds a little funny talking about the Saints that way because they still have Alvin Kamara to mess stuff up, and they still have Chris Olave as healthy as he can be, and they still have Rashid Shaheed. I think the Saints team, as bad as they're going to be as a team all year long, is going to be shocking a lot of defenses that are not good. And the Arizona Cardinals added some good pieces in the offseason, but this is not a good defense. They're just okay. And they showed that by scoring 2 touchdowns on the Arizona Cardinals. So even though Juwan Johnson did not score one of those for the Saints on Sunday, I think that Juwan Johnson is a must-add if you're desperate at tight end. And I also wrote this in the waiver wire article we're going to be releasing pretty soon. Juwan Johnson, don't go above 15% of your fab.
The article is out. Sorry,
we did post it.
We got on the show. Yeah, it's posted. It's
Sweet.
been out since about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So go check that out on our site, www.optimusfantasy.com. And while you're there, go check out our tools. 3 months, $10 off all the data. Use the code 3, tools.optimusfantasy.com, or just click on the tools bar on the menu bar, whatever the hell that thing at the top of our website's called. I don't know. I just built it. All right, we're going to move on from Juwan Johnson. He is a must-add. I think 15% of your fab is completely reasonable to get a guy who is going to see double-digit targets more than one more time this season from Spencer Rattler. Now, I want to talk about Harold Fannin. I hope Jamie's watching because he met Harold Fannin's parents at the Fantasy Football Expo.
No crap. Wow.
Yeah, no, they actually came to it was the Friday night party in Centennial Plaza in Canton, Ohio. Harold Fannin's parents heard there was an expo, so they just decided to show up to the party. They were in blinged out Harold Fannin jerseys. Jamie met him. I said hi to them, but I didn't want to bug him too much. But Harold Fannin, I'm glad I hope they were at that game. 9 targets, 7 catches, 63 yards, and a 72% snap share for the rookie in his first game. I was hoping he would get involved in the offense, and if you looked at the way that they were using him, he was in the slot a ton. Do you think this is sustainable with Fannin? I feel like it is sustainable. I feel like he cemented himself as a part of this offense as long as Flacco's quarterback. How do you feel?
So I don't think this is going to be a stable thing because the Cleveland Browns offense sucks. They just happen to look better than they actually are because they played a really, really, really bad Bengals defense. This Bengals team is going to struggle against tougher opponents all season long, and they're going to be playing the Baltimore Ravens, the Green Bay Packers, and Detroit Lions and Minnesota Vikings coming up. All four of those teams over the next 4 weeks have pretty good defenses, despite the fact that the Ravens got beaten the last second by the Buffalo Bills, but the Bills are also a much better team. Now, that being said, I don't think we're going to be seeing Harold Fannin getting 9 targets on a consistent basis. It's great to see him getting lined up in the slot, being that it's not like the Browns have a great slot receiver on their team anyway, so of course they're going to be turning to the rookie. But it's also worth noting that the starting tight end ahead of Fannin, David Njoku, is on a 4-year, $54.75 million contract. So it is safe to say as long as Njoku is healthy, he will be fed more consistently as long as he's out there as far as the target share goes. So Fannin, I'm not saying is going to be losing a bunch of volume, but I would not expect him to be getting the same volume over these next several weeks. Now, if you want to add Fannin as a second tight end of the team, I would say don't go crazier than about 10% right now, being that there's a lot of uncertainties about this Browns offense. It's easy to fall in love with the production that he gave because, one, he's a rookie, and two, he looked amazing at Bowling Green, and a lot of people love that, but you got to slow your roll on a guy like him because he will disappoint you in some weeks against respectable defenses.
Oh, yeah, and I completely agree. If you're adding him, it's a guy where you're maybe flexing him when you absolutely have no choice. If he gets on a hot streak, maybe you throw him out there, but he's not a guy that I'm rushing to roster. Less than 5% of your fab, I think, on Fannin right now, which with how hyped people are on him, you might not be able to get him, and that's okay. You're okay missing out on him. Let's move on to Michael Mayer, and the reason I put Michael Mayer in here is because we don't know what's going on with Brock Bowers yet. We hopefully should know something tomorrow. Doesn't sound like it's super serious, but in the absence of Brock Bowers, Mike Mayer, 4 targets, 4 catches, 38 yards. It's not a lot, but if Brock Bowers misses time, is Mike Mayer someone you want to have on your roster if you're a Bowers owner? I
would say Michael Mayer is not a must add, and that hurts me a little bit to say because I watched his senior year at University of Notre Dame back in 2022 against that snowy blizzard Boston College game where they blew them out in South Bend. Mayer caught 5 passes that day. I forgot how many yards, but he had himself quite the nice game. That being said, Mayer is not a must-add if you need a second tight end on your team. Bowers, like you just said, we don't know the severity of his knee injury, and to be honest with you, this is the first I'm hearing of his knee injury. I didn't even know he got hurt. I guess George Kittle's injury overtook what we heard about Brock Bowers, but once we hear an update, is assuming Bowers is okay, Bowers will return to being the Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers show in Las Vegas. So, yeah, I'm out on Michael Mayer as far as prioritizing him over guys like Fannin and Juwan Johnson and Noah Fant. So I would say don't prioritize Michael Mayer. Don't spend more than like 1 or 2% of your fab if you're desperate. I can't hear you, unfortunately, Nate.
I don't think a lot of people are looking at him right now. I think the people who are adding him are probably Bowers owners that don't have a lot of other options. I wouldn't spend any fab on him. If you can add him for free and you feel like having an extra tight end, great. If not, I wouldn't even bother. Now on to the Kittle news. 3 to 5 weeks he's going to be out. That has been confirmed by the team this evening. Jake Tongas, who stepped in his absence, his first targets in the NFL, 3 targets, 3 catches, 15 yards, but he did have a touchdown. With the absence of Kittle here for the next 3 to 5 weeks, is Tongas a guy you think is going to just pick up that Kittle volume, or is there somewhere else in this offense you think it's going to go, and maybe Tongas isn't worth it?
So years ago, there was there was a Rule 85 that some famous people previously said that when George Kittle is too hurt to play, you put in the tight end that's behind him, and he sucks up the George Kittle volume that he gets in the passing game. But in Jake Tongas's case, I don't think that's absolutely necessary. Now, we only saw Tongas in limited action, being that Kittle unfortunately had the hamstring issue that's going to be keeping him out for a little while. Tongas played 39% of the snaps and only got 3 targets, which is not too shabby for a guy that doesn't typically see volume. But that being said, I would not be prioritizing Tongas just because of the San Francisco 49ers offense. All the tight ends we've talked about so far, the ones that you're seeing on your screen above me and Nate right now, prioritize them over Tongas. Let somebody else overspend their fab on him.
Yep, 100%. That's why I wanted to bring it up. Ross Dwelley was really the guy who just would absorb all those Kittle targets. He's not there anymore. Luke Farrell, maybe I could see that, but yeah, these were not his first targets. But he only had one previous target, and it was in Chicago 4 years ago. It was the only other NFL targets in his entire career. Now, I want to get to some of these questions here that we've got in the chat before we get out of here, Evan, so you can get to watching your Bears. We've got Jorge. Should I drop Kincaid for Montague? No, I don't even understand the question.
I don't understand why you would do that either, Jorge. Unless you're like rich at tight end, if Kincaid is like your second tight end and you don't want 2 tight ends on your roster for some reason, this would be a great time to sell Kincaid. If you need another running back, I'm sure somebody will sell you a backup running back in exchange for Kincaid. So if that's your case, great. But no, do not drop Kincaid. He's definitely worth a hold. Monagai is getting some work in the passing game as I'm looking over my shoulder right now at the game. But right now, Monagai is the backup to DeAndre Swift, who is the guy in that offense right now. Monagai actually only got 1 catch for 11 yards so far at the time we're airing this. So no, don't do that.
Yeah, no, definitely don't do that. Mick wants to know, should I get Pitts off of waivers and start him over Mark Andrews?
I would also not do that, being that Mark Andrews will be seeing more volume as the season goes on. It's a slow start, just like last year. Andrews is not past his prime. I got to look up what he got last night because it was only 1 catch on 5 yards on 75% of the snaps. So, being that he is important enough to be on the field, he will get his targets as the season goes on. People got scared last year too because he wasn't seeing as many targets, and Isaiah Likely is also coming back next week as well. So that does help complement Mark Andrews, as people don't seem to realize that Mark Andrews needs Isaiah Likely to get open. So when the 2 of them are out there, that will help Andrews' value throughout the season. And Kyle Pitts is somebody that I think you should look to dropping somebody else to go get if you want a second tight end. I don't know what your team looks like, Mick, but I wish you the best with figuring that out.
Yep, good luck, man. I'm with you, Evan. We got Tron Force. I have CMC and was holding Isaac Guerrero, although B-Rob is the backup now. Would you drop Guerrero for a different waiver wire darling? I would. I'd be done with Guerrero at this point.
Yeah, Isaac Guerrero was never somebody you needed to roster in the first place in your vanilla redraft leagues. You can absolutely look for a better running back out there. I mean, heck, just the running backs that we were just looking at. I'd like to bring up that screen, but I think we have to take down that Discord thing first. Yeah, let me do that. Yeah, so the running backs that we have up there, Dylan Sampson, not so much Ray Davis or Giddens or Algier, but if you can get Dylan Sampson on your team if he was not drafted, absolutely drop Guerrero for him. And you may have to drop a little more fab to get him in your case, but yeah, Guerendo's no longer a must-hold.
I've got bad news for you, buddy. Next comment from Tron Force. I dropped Hollywood and Sampson last week to pick up kicker in a defense, regretting the move.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would drop Guerrero, see who's on the waiver wire. Even a speculative ad at this point is better than Guerrero. Kenny Gainwell's probably better than Guerrero, as much as I hate to say it. So
I never thought I'd say that either, but here we are.
Yet here we are. All right, guys. Well, we are done here for tonight. Again, if you want more waiver wire advice, head over to optimusfantasy.com. It's right there on the front page. It's our weekly waiver wire article. It comes out every single Monday afternoon, so make sure you're looking out for that. It has been a pleasure, Evan. I want you to be able to get to your Bears and have fun with that. Just want to remind everyone to please go check out our Discord channel. It is run by the one and only Lou Brunson. He's right here in the chat, as he is all of the time. Check out the link in the show description. Evan, it's been a pleasure, my friend. Go Bears. For Evan Sather, I am Nate Paul. And everyone, good luck on your waiver claims and have a great rest of your Monday night.
Go Bears.